Yo, what's good, everybody? How we doing today? So today I'm just gonna be going over this comment that I saw, and I wanted to make sure that um this right here that it doesn't go unanswered. So I'm gonna read over it first, obviously. Then after I do that, I'm going to go ahead and say a few lines about it. Give me 1 second here. All right. So this is from Hat Trick Hero. He says, "You saying you can't kickbox in this game because of the meta? Let me know everything I need to know." I was good at striking in UFC 4, good enough that I actually had to learn how to grapple instead of just focusing on striking. I only ever used head movement when I had a hard read on my opponent. I bought this game when it first came out, but deleted it because it felt weird. A couple of days ago, I decided to download it again and actually learn how to play, but my striking is cooked. I tried to focus on the body or play slow. I lose stamina instead of my opponent who just wails on me. I see that head movement is key in this game, so I've been trying to focus on head movement and counters, but it's not working. I pull and my strike doesn't come out. I slip and my strike doesn't come out. And when it does, it feels like I have pillow hands. I use Wonder Boy. I've been using him since UFC 4. It feels like my opponent can just rush me down and interrupt everything I do. I make read to mix it up, but it doesn't matter. It can't I can't play methodical, I can't play slow, and I can't invest in the body. There's no way I'm this bad. I played people who I think are dumb as hell, and I still lost to them even when their stamina is half gone or almost empty, and mine is still pretty good. I get knocked out, I stun people, and they still press me. I was about to download UFC 4 again and just hop back on that, but I told myself, man, stop being a bitch and actually learn this. But I'm not learning anything. Okay, so first thing that I love about this is this last one is that you're taking accountability over the fact that, hey, maybe it's me, right? That's a real thing. But I'm here to tell you that that feeling that you're feeling is real. So within kickboxing and UFC 5, not only is it extremely difficult, but it's an uphill battle. Even if you have one of the best kickboxers at lightweight, for example, let's say you have like Edson Barboza, okay? The footwork stat in this game does not have enough exponential difference, which means that somebody who's very slow, has very slow footwork, like Habib, can still pretty much slip chain block break someone who's Edson Barboza now. So that's an easy matchup to beat, obviously, due to power. But it's not like in UFC 4 to where you're going to be floating around somebody with slow footwork. That's one thing that I personally do not like. There's not much super big gaps between that. Okay, so I'm going to go area by area just so I can go through this. So with the use of head movement in UFC 5, there was a patch in where you can use a lot more head movement without there being much of any tax. Okay, I can flick my stick left and right, boom, 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 the whole fight, and I will not take um any stamina tax really. Okay, so that is why it is going to be important, especially because it sounds like you're a back foot fighter. You are going to have to use a lot of more head movement. Okay, and I'll release a head movement video. I never had because it feels like a video that's going to be 50 minutes long because there's so much to talk about. But you need to start using more minor slips and ducks in your game. I know that a lot of times I notice that for block breakers, it's really tricky to get somebody when they duck on time and things like that. Okay. Right here, going over the next line, saying you're striking this cook. Now, my question for you, a few things is this: do you play on a monitor? If not, do you have one available? Because a big thing that a lot of players don't understand, We're finally reaching that realm of gaming within UFC that people are actually paying attention to setups and stuff, and they do matter. If you do not play on a monitor already, if you have the money for one, or you have a PC lying around and you have that monitor, give the game a try on a monitor. If not, at least turn your TV to game mode so you are able to play on that. Okay, so let's see. The next line here that I want to talk about is going to be this. If I try to focus on the body or play slow, I lose stamina to my opponent. So what that can be, I will tell you, is this. How stamina works in this game is when you touch the body matters more than how much you do. If my opponent's stamina is at full, okay, and I try to tax the body by touching, it's not going to do the same versus if I let my opponent miss and then I go to the body. If I go to the body when the stamina is regenerating, it's a lot easier to do. Also, another thing, kicks will over time, if you whiff them, because you say you're a kickboxer, kicks will sap your stamina a lot easier. Another thing, stamina is not taxed by activity anymore. Okay, it's more so taxed by punishing. So if I don't punish my opponent, they will not be taxed. Okay, that's the bottom line there. So that's something to look at and work on. Okay, if my opponent is not being punished to the body, instead of just touching the body or letting them overthrow will never, that's not how you tax stamina. Okay, that's not how it works in this game. And they moved away from it. In UFC 4, you could do that. In UFC 5, you can't do that anymore. Not a lot of people talk about it, but it's a real thing. So you have to change your mind on how you see stamina draining. Once your opponent whiffs, then that's when you want to tax to the body and try to use punches or knees. And if they block low, that's when you switch high. Okay. I see the head movement is key to this game, so I've been trying to focus on head movement and counters, but it's not working. I pull my strike and it doesn't come out. I slip my strike, doesn't come out. When it does, it feels like I have pillow hands. This right here, 2 reasons. I'll go over the biggest one. Wonder Boy is, even though you can use a Wonder Boy is going to be very hard to use. Okay, I suggest getting the Alter Ego. If you don't have them already, get the Alter Ego. In UFC 4, it was a lot easier to use more picks and still be able to beat people. In UFC 5, however, it's more of a game to where the picks really matter. Okay, so with that, you need to make sure that if you're trying to box, pick a different pick. Okay, Wonder Boy is going to be extremely hard to use, especially if your opponent doesn't respect you. You're going to have to be 10 times better than your opponent if they go like JDM, or if they go like Alter Ego, Robbie Lawler. You're going to have to be like 100 times better than them to beat them. Okay, so because Wonder Boy doesn't really have an inherent thing that makes him better than other players because of how much kicks have slowed down and how less effective they are now. As far as the pull my strike and it doesn't come out, you're most likely blocking while you pull. In order to stop that, you need to make sure once you pull, okay, you're not blocking at the same time. So in order to practice this, I'm going to have a practice mode video in the comments. You go to practice mode and you practice it until it looks correct. Okay? So make sure you're not blocking while pulling. Okay? And another thing about the pillow hands, that's just going to happen sometimes, especially if you have Wonder Boy. Your strike is not always going to stun. Okay? It really also matters about hitting them where they move. So if I have somebody who pulls, right, punches back and then slips right after, I have to punch them where they slip, whether that be the lead hook or the rear hook, whatever. Okay, so it feels like my opponent can rush me down and interrupt everything I do. I make reads and mix it up, but it doesn't matter. I play methodical, play slow. Yeah. So with this, 2 things to understand. UFC 5, when you talk about the eye test and how skilled players look, it's not going to look pretty, right? Like, for example, if you watch me play versus like a Cy Craig or somebody like that on TikTok, or you see a lot of slip chainers and stuff, that other person might look better, right? But mechanically and what works in the game, I am, right? I might be better than that slip chainer or whatever you watch, and that's just because I understand the game mechanics. Okay, and when you talk about meta and maneuvering around the meta, that's important. Okay, you have to put the pride to the side and what looks good to what actually works. And there's a way to play meta sim, right? Which I'm going to be talking about the next few weeks, making different sauce packs and how to make effective kick setups like I did in this video. Okay, these kick setups work. Okay, when you have the space to do them. I played a lot of people who I think are dumb. So yeah, that's why the people who you're losing to aren't passing the eye test, but they might honestly be better than you. I suggest you kind of take time to improve yourself and you'll start to see, oh, okay, that's why he's doing that. That's why he's doing this. Okay. As far as them rushing you down, I have a video on this talking about the truth about back foot fighting. You can't stop anybody from rushing you down, okay, or pressuring you. When somebody's doing that, and if they're doing the same thing, you're going to have to counter them over and over and over and over and over again. That's the only thing you can do. There's nothing you can do to make somebody stop pressuring you. Okay? And honestly, when you get to a certain level of skill, you'll actually might prefer that, because when you understand how to interrupt and time your punches, how to punish on pulls, how to pause your strikes, timing, it is so easy to pick apart those types of players. But at the moment, I understand the frustration because you want to kick in the pocket, you want your space to work, you want a slow fight, but you can't, do that. Can't force somebody to do that, especially people. You have a lot of players in this game that would rather lose than slow a fight down. Okay, and just like in real life, okay, I don't know if you've ever done a martial arts sport or anything. You can't stop anybody from throwing. What stops somebody in real life from throwing is pain. You know, you talk about fatigue, things like that, and we already know that in the game, stamina isn't taxed on what activity. You don't get taxed based on activity like you do in UFC 4 or 3. That makes this game so much harder for back foot fighters. That makes the game this much faster. Okay? That's the game that they want. The UFC, they made it very clear they don't want a game to where they made it clear they don't want the guy who's smarter, who can preserve themselves, to have an advantage. And I'm not just being, they've pretty much said it with how they do it. Okay. But there's that. Okay. And with the investment in bodies, I already talked about that. But yeah, all that is that you need to get better in the pocket. If you're not good in the pocket, then you're not going to be good at back foot fighting in this game, because that is essential. I get knocked out, I stun people, they still press me. All that. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Okay, even in UFC 4, that happened, right? At the highest level that I played. And there's some people you just can't get off of you, right? That's just how it is. That's how it's going to be. Okay, there are going to be people who are not going to back up, reset, any of that. Okay? So how do you maneuver that? How do you get around that? The biggest thing to talk about with that is just going to be understanding the game, your interruptions. The two things that I think you should work on in this is going to be, okay, stay with me here. Interruptions in the pockets. Pulls, okay? And then when you have somebody who's pressuring you like that, the 50-50 game, which means the mix-ups, going high, low, is going to work out a lot, okay? Which I'm going to talk about over the next few weeks. I'm going to have a video on the 50-50 where I'll be talking. I'm going to have a video on, I already have a video on interruptions, stuff like that. But you have to get good in the pocket. That's it. That is it, okay? There's no way around it in this game. The footwork's too fast and the stamina's too high. Okay, so that is all for the video. The reason why I took this whole video out for it is just because I feel like a lot of people, you know, you talk about beginner level UFC 5 players, and that's not to insult your skill, but you said to yourself, you want to learn this game, so you're at the beginning stages. These are some things that a lot of you all feel. My videos tend not to be geared towards the like beginner levels. My videos are geared towards like stuck Div 18, Div 15, Div 19 players that just don't understand mechanics. The people who kind of just don't have the unteachables. I'm trying to teach those unteachables, right? Like the interruptions, the footwork, stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to teach here. You know, more so for the people who are kind of stuck in limbo and felt like they've already, you know, reached their skill peak. So as far as you talk about basics, I'm gonna more so go over that in my live videos. I'm not gonna make any combinations or beginner tutorials. That's not my style, because I'm just more so not interested in it. But I still do care about y'all. If you have questions, leave them in the comments and you'll get a quick answer.